disruptive and tax-wise steward you can be, you're in the right place. So without further introduction, let me turn the presentation over to Michael. Michael?
Hey, Mark, thanks. And thanks all you folks.
We're going to go ahead and start rehearsing.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mark.
I feel like we're not on the same page yet with the control room, so.
People only knew the
I would
sausage
like
making.
Is trying to fix something with the TriCaster, so you guys can go ahead and do your rehearsal. Do you want me to count you down or anything?
No, that's fine. We'll just
Yeah.
talk. We
Yeah.
just weren't sure what to do.
So it's coming through the. They're gonna play that intro first, and then you guys. It's gonna come to you guys, all three, on set.
I don't know why I should be here.
Yeah, you don't need to be.
We're not sure. There's people talking, cameras flashing.
After the
What
three,
cameras are flashing?
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, so you guys,
We
Connery
did.
is doing the editing, and so until then, he said you can go ahead and get started.
Okay.
Just talk it
Because we're
through.
running out of time before.
Are you going to
before
do the
we go
slides
live.
or something?
What's that?
Someone doing the slides?
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
cool. We're good.
Let's back
We weren't
up. Let's-
sure.
There's your first slide.
We
right
weren't
there.
sure. Okay, I'll start.
Okay.
That's what I told you, that we need to go ahead
I'll
and
start.
And
I'll start.
you don't even need to be here.
do you want me to count them down? From
Okay.
The intro to open?
But I need to come back.
Yeah, I don't get why they had to
Because
do
they're
that.
gonna play the intro.
But anyways.
Because they didn't want us to be
So
in
you're saying-
that because he introduces us too late in the intro.
Okay.
Go live.
That's right.
You're gonna-
That's right. You're going to still stay here and look
May I-
handsome, look smart and handsome.
May I,
Thank you.
You got it?
All right, so
Okay, so
I'll
we're gonna go to the open, so it's gonna play with you, and then you're going to an open, right? Or you guys are just gonna talk.
Right.
Okay, so let's just count you down, and you're gonna start like you're live.
okay.
Okay, ready? I'm just gonna go a 10 count. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Thanks, Mark, and welcome to all you folks who are joining us for this webinar on tax planning deductions, peace of mind, knowing your bases are covered. We're going to be happy to you'll be with us for the next several minutes. And when folks talk to me about what I do, I like to say my job is help people use the assets God's entrusted to them to advance this kingdom. And we do that through different strategies that my colleague Jay and I want to share with you today. And how you can benefit yourself and ministry before year end. We've gone over several case studies that you see there, how you can make direct gifts of appreciated assets, something called the zero tax gift and sale, donor advised fund, direct charitable IRA rollover, well, that's a tongue twister, and, I'm supposed to slap the thing, Mark, and oil and gas and mineral interest. And finally, we'll close with some information on the estate design services we offer. But first of all, let's talk about taxes, because that's something that's going to be on our mind before year end is over. And to do so, Jay, please talk to us about taxes.
Thank you, Michael.
I'm all messed up right now.
Well, obviously, taxes is an area that we really want to help you overcome. And if you look at the slides, you'll see that there are various types of taxes that you're going to have to deal with. And we can offer you advice in all of those areas. The first one is income taxes. And as you can see, the federal income taxes can range anywhere from 0 to 39.6%. And state income taxes, obviously, depending upon what state you live in, can range from 0 to 13.3%. So you combine that high end, and you can be over 50% for income taxes. But in addition, you also have federal capital gains tax. And that can run from 15 to 20%. And then state capital gain tax can be another up to 13.3%, again, depending upon what state you live in. The national average is 5, but there are many states that are higher than that. And then last but not least is our favorite tax, the Affordable Care Act tax, which has been a recent addition of 3.8. So you can see there's a lot of taxes to have to deal with. One of the things that's particularly interesting that a lot of people don't realize is capital gains taxes are actually optional. You have a couple choices. You can pay them, obviously, but you can postpone them or defer them, or you can bypass them entirely when you die. It certainly happens. But a preferred way is to bypass them through charitable giving while you're alive. And you can actually take the dollars that you'd be paying to the government and use those for kingdom purposes and then be able to watch the impact you're having while you're alive. Let's look at our first strategy, and that is the direct gift of appreciated assets. What exactly are appreciated assets? Well, there are those that have increased in value, in market value, since you acquired them, such as, and here's some examples, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, real property, and that could be commercial or real estate, could be farm property, could be vacant land. Business interest, and that would encompass partnerships, LLCs, S corporations, C corps. And the last category would be artwork and collectibles. Now, when we use the word collectibles, we like to think about things that would be perhaps a stamp collection, antiques, coin collection. But all of those are areas that are subject to appreciation, which you're able to utilize for kingdom purposes. So what's the benefit of using appreciated assets in the gifting process? Well, there's many. But we'll emphasize 3 on this slide, and you'll see, first of all, that there's multiple layers of tax savings that you can experience relief from. And as you saw on that previous slide, there's all kinds of layers there that are added in. And the second area is you can experience using your assets for giving and not just your cash flow. You know, it's an interesting statistic that most folks, when they do their giving, it's done out of just their income or their cash flow. And that's typically only 10% of the resources that they have. The other 90% are what we call illiquid or non-cash assets, and most folks don't know what to do with those when it comes to giving. We can help them transform those and have The other one is to transfer your tax dollars to kingdom dollars. And there again, would you rather give to the government, which is a charity not of choice, or charities that you get to choose? And that's where you can really have kingdom impact. I'm going to ask Michael to walk us through a great case study of how appreciated assets can be used to your benefit. Michael?
Thanks, Jay. Yeah, just to give you an idea of how this works, there was a couple, Nick and Rachel, who we were meeting with to talk about a project. And we got the discussion, well, how you make a gift to this project. Now, they could write a check. They were capable of doing that, but we thought, let's be a little more tax effective. And so that's this case study, the quintuple tax savings. In their tax bracket, if they made a gift of $10,000 of cash at 40%, they'd save about $4,000 in taxes. However, we asked them the question, how would you like to be even more effective in your giving from a tax perspective? They were interested. So let's talk about making a gift out of appreciated assets. And if you gave $10,000 of the company stock that you have, let's see what the results would be and how much better that would be for you. And so that's what we did. You can see these numbers here. When you make a gift of an appreciated asset, in the case of Rick and Rachel, it was some stock. And under the tax law, you get a deduction, $10,000 deduction for the fair market value of that stock. So just going through these numbers, and you'll see where we get the word quintuple tax savings, there are actually 5 levels of tax savings. You have your income tax savings level at both the federal and the state. Now that we use an average of 5%, it just depends on your state. There are some states without taxes, and there's some states like the one from which this broadcast is going, California, it's 13%. You lucky folks. There's also capital gain tax savings at the federal and state level, and then there's the Affordable Care Tax, which Jay mentioned. If you add up all those tax savings, you can see the total tax savings is over $5,700 compared to a cash gift tax savings of $4,000. So from a pure tax planning perspective, that's a significant increase in savings. And as Jay referred to earlier, a lot of us are used to writing checks out of our checkbook. But as you can see, if you use the assets, it doesn't affect your cash flow. And again, the tax savings can be quite significant. So a simple example of one donor couple who chose to make a gift from securities. Now, sometimes when Jay and I meet with folks, they say, I love the idea, but I don't want to give it all away. How can I make a gift, but maybe I need some of it back. Maybe I'd like to keep some of this principle for other needs and purposes we have in our life. Does it have to be all or nothing? Well, the answer is no. Typically in a scenario like that, we'll talk about a zero tax gift and sale. In fact, I was just visiting with a couple earlier this morning this is one of the items of conversation. But I just got turned around. I should have said that. But anyways, And the best illustrate that, let's talk about a couple who did this with some real estate, Kirk and Cindy.
She doesn't like to be filmed because she's...
They're a couple here in California who owned an income property they purchased many years ago. Now, as with most real estate in California, real estate's gone up quite a bit. In fact, it was now appraised at $500,000. And if you take their tax basis, which is essentially what they paid for it, add in the improvements and take out the depreciation, they had a very low tax basis. Now, the key thing with Kurt and Cindy, in addition to tax planning, frankly, they're tired of being landlords. They've had a lot of good offers for the property, but, you know, they're balking at a couple things. One of the biggest things is, in their case, $100,000 capital gain taxes. They're just having a hard time even thinking about the idea of writing a check and that much to give to the tax man. And they're realistic. They know they can't keep it all. But they say, is there a way we can do something charitable to benefit the ministries we believe in and support, as well as sell this property, you know, and avoid the taxes? Yes, there is. Let's look at the zero tax gift and sale. And that's what we did. We ran the numbers. Go up to the next slide. Oh, before I top up writing, well, we ran the numbers first of all. There's a baseline. And this is what they were facing. As you can see, the big red number there, $100,000. That's a loss of capital. That's a loss of growth. They'll never see it again. It goes into the budget of the state or federal government. And I don't know about you, but there are things I think our government does well and things I don't think our government does that well. And if I can control, as Jay talked about earlier, say, hey, would you rather pay it to taxes or pay it to the ministry and the work of the kingdom, transfer those tax dollars to kingdom dollars? Most folks with whom we meet with like that concept. So what we did, we ran the numbers. We said, okay, how much do you have to give and how much can you keep in order to make an effective zero tax gift and sale? And on the next slide, you'll see how it all worked out, the numbers. We ran the numbers and we said, listen, if you keep about a little bit over 60% interest, which is about $300,000. If you gift about a 40% interest, here's how the cash flow works out. On the part that you keep and sell, and we'd have a mutual sale, your capital gain tax liability is going to be about $62,000. However, on the part that you gifted to charity, the income tax savings at their combined rate is about $62,000 as well. And what you have is an offset of the capital gain taxes being offset by the savings. Now, I must give you a caveat here. This is where it's really important to have your CPA involved, because we need to look at this in the context of your entire tax return. Can a person use the full deduction in the year of the gift to offset those capital gain taxes? Many times they can, but there are times when that offset will occur over in the year of the gift in some carry forward years to have the full zero tax effect. The other component of this diagram I want to show you, you see a little box there off that says to DAF. What's a DAF? That's a donor advised fund, which Jay's going to cover in a moment. But we get and understand that people probably have more than one charitable interest. And what we like about this plan incorporating a donor advised fund is that not only can they transfer those tax dollars to ministry, it can be the more than one ministry, not just the person with whom they're speaking. So again, an idea for folks say, listen, I don't want to give it all away. Is there some kind of middle ground? The zero tax gift and sale is a wonderful option. I'm going to turn it back over to Jay to talk about that DAF, or donor advised fund. Jay?
Thank you, Michael. Well, a donor advised fund, what exactly is it? Well, it's a charitable giving fund that is separately administered by a public non of their choice. Now, this isn't a new strategy. It's been around since the 1930s, but it's gained in popularity over the last number of years. If you look at a couple of those statistics, from 2007 to 2012, the number of DAFs actually went up in the U.S. by 26%. In that same period of time, the amount that was invested in DAFs went up 42%. And in that same period of time as well, the amount that was contributed from donor advised funds was up 39%. So you can see it's become a very popular tool. Now let me also say this, that it's similar to a family foundation, but the beauty of a donor advised fund is you don't have to worry about any of the federal, tax, the legal or the administrative details that you do with a family foundation. So let's look at this slide, and it shows a nice diagram.
That's kind of distracting, isn't it?
Could we stop the sound coming in? Thank you. So this graph shows how the donor advised fund works in a very simple way. So here we have a couple, John and Carol, and they open an account in they're a public charity, and they call their donor advised fund the John and Carol Donor Advised Fund. After they open it up, they can gift to that fund either cash or appreciated assets. When they do that, in the calendar year that they do that, they get a tax deduction for that. And then once the money is sitting in the donor advised fund, then they can make grants to charities of their choice by simply advising the public charity where they want those to go. And if it meets the guidelines of the charity, the grants are a good deal. So that's kind of how that works. And if you look at the next slide, this gives you a feel for the ways that a donor advised fund can benefit you. Now there's a number of ways that it works to your advantage, but we want to just hone in on three. The first one is you can do tax-wise giving. And the way a donor advised fund works is that when you make the donation to the fund, you get a tax deduction in that year. But you have time with which to make grants from that fund at your own leisure after you decide what really is important to you. Secondly, a donor advised fund can be used to support anonymous giving. Now, there are some folks, this is a very important consideration. I mean, they believe Scripture teaches that the right hand shouldn't know what the left hand's doing when it comes to giving, and they would interpret that to mean that it should be anonymous and quiet and that nobody should really know who the gifts are coming from. Well, if that's your conviction or that's your preference, that is something that the donor advised fund can accomplish for you very easily. And lastly, and certainly not least, is that a donor advised fund can use to involve your family in your giving. So if you've got children or grandchildren who you want to help nurture their giving heart, this is a great strategy for you. Let's look at a case study that actually does that for us. Here we have Joe and Dawn Green. This is a young couple with some young children, and they had worked in real estate and acquired several rental properties over the years. They would like to donate one of those properties to support ministries that evangelize the lost. And they'd also like to engage their children in their charitable endeavors. They're also concerned about if they were to sell that property outright, they'd have about a 30% capital gains tax. 20% would be federal, and they live in a state that has a high capital gains tax, which makes it a total of 30%. That's obviously scary. So, can we help them? Yes, we can. So this is what the Greens did. They established the Green Family Fund, which was a donor advised fund, and they donated one of their properties to that fund. When they did that, this gave them an income tax deduction in that year, and they also bypassed those federal and state capital gains taxes that you saw in the previous slide. They, along with their children, then did some research on their favorite charities that evangelized the lost. And then once the property was sold and the money was in the fund, they called a family board meeting where they all reviewed the ministries that they researched, and they voted on the ones that were most effective, and from the donor advised fund, they made grants to those ministries. So you can see that this really accomplished all of their objectives. So is a DAF something that's for you? Well, let's look at the following situations to see if these criteria fit your particular situation. It would work for you if you desire the benefits of a private foundation with all of the red tape. So you don't have any legal, financial, or administrative details to deal with. The next time you decide, if you need time to decide which ministry to support, but you want the tax deduction now, a donor advised fund can work well for you. If you want the freedom to make both cash gifts and non-cash gifts, a donor advised fund works well. If you want the freedom to change beneficiaries, and you prefer your giving to be anonymous, and you also see the value of family giving, in all of those arenas, this is the great tool for you to consider. Let's look at number 4. This is the IRA charitable rollover. Now, let me just say this right up front, that this is something that is not approved as of yet for 2015. And it needs to go through congressional approval and be signed off by our president before it becomes effective. But we are hopeful that sometime this fall that will happen, and the president will sign off on it so that it's effective before the end of the year. But how exactly will it work? Well, based upon how it's worked in the past, it relates only to traditional IRAs, not Roth IRAs. And it would relate to a person who's at least 70 and a half years of age. And it would allow you to make a contribution out of your IRA directly to a charitable organization of your choice for up to $100,000 per year. And again, it's approved in a manner similar to previous years. A 401k or a 403b would not qualify, but if you roll that over into an IRA first, you can have the contribution made directly from the IRA to the charity of your choice. So again, this isn't approved, but we're hoping that it will be before the end of the year. So what are some of the features and benefits of the IRA charitable rollover? Well, it satisfies what's called the required minimum distribution rules that the IRS imposes on those that have an IRA and who are over 70 and a half years of age. And if you're in that category, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The other benefit of this is it's actually tax positive. Because this does not get included in your income, and obviously you wouldn't take a deduction for it, by not grossing up your income, you're able to avoid the limits that are placed on charitable and other deductions, and it keeps you from potentially being boosted into a higher tax bracket because our tax rates are progressive. And lastly, it's easy to do. All you need to do is notify your custodian, and they can work directly with the charities that you choose to have that transfer made. So is an IRA rollover something that would be for you? Well, if you have a traditional IRA and you're required to take the required minimum distribution, but you don't need the income, if you give more than 50% of your AGI, this is a way to still do giving and not have it be affected by that IRS requirement. If you want to make a lifetime gift from a large IRA balance, and you want to do that in a way that doesn't affect your taxes, this is a strategy that you can employ. And if you're intending to leave to charity your IRA when you pass on, then why not move that ahead and do some of it now and be able to see the benefit that you're having for the kingdom? Lastly, if you don't itemize and therefore don't get a tax benefit for your charitable contributions, this is an ideal strategy for you. Michael, I'm going to have you talk a little bit about gas, oil, and mineral rights, if you
So many
would.
distractions. You did well.
I just ignored you guys. Just go.
I mean, they were moving chairs. They were lifting us up and down.
Hey, keep going. We got to watch our time.
I know. I'm fine. Where am I? Oh, hey, hi there. Last category of assets we'd like to talk about with you are gifts of oil, gas, and mineral rights.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Wycliffe Foundation,
I know in my
and the
experiences,
Jesus
some of the
Film
biggest
Project,
challenges of donors who own lands rich in oil and gas or mineral rights is the income taxes that come with production. Now, I understand that currently, oil prices aren't where they are, but it's definitely a concern that many people have. So for those folks who own such assets, there are 4 charitable giving strategies that may come into play to help you manage that income in a tax-favorable way and support God's work.
You're in the right place.
I'm going to list.
Without further introduction, let me turn this presentation over to Michael. Michael?
An interest in a portion of that land, gift or or remainder trust that can help you with your retirement planning.
Good afternoon, ladies and
finally,
gentlemen.
there's something called a life, which involves gifting or bequeathing of the land either now or in the future. But let's look at it.
Good afternoon, ladies and
This
gentlemen.
couple was a former missionary couple, but his great-great-granddaddy homesteaded 100 some odd years ago,
Presentation
1,600
over to
acres
Michael.
of land.
Michael? Good afternoon. Without further introduction, let me turn this presentation over to Michael. Michael? Good afternoon. Over to Michael. Michael?
if you make an irrevocable assignment of some of that royalty income, and let's do it into a donor advised fund that Jay described, because that provides the opportunity to benefit multiple ministries. What that does is a couple of things. It shifts the income essentially off of their tax return and to the charity that's managing that donor advised fund. So there's no charitable deduction, but that's okay. They're not having to report that income. And by allowing them to do this, they can still give. In fact, they can give beyond the 50% limitation that the law limits one to in making charitable gifts, and avoid that completely and still accomplish their charitable giving, but they get to save on taxes. And because it's an assignment of income, there's no need for appraisals and whatnot in that regard. So that's just one simple example of of how we're looking at helping a couple in North Dakota who are fortunate enough that their great-grandfather homesteaded several hundred acres of land up there. Okay, so with that, I'm going to pass back over to Jay to talk about the last service that we offer to people when talking about charitable estate and gift planning. We've talked a lot about ways you make current gifts to ministry. We also want to finish up with just an estate design service that we both offer to help you with your ultimate gift to ministry. So Jay, back over to you.
Thank you, Michael. This is our estate design service. And this is one of my favorites that I like to share with our ministry partners. It's actually our premier service that we offer to folks. And when we provide this service, we will construct for you a blueprint. And it's basically an estate design that you can then take to your attorney, from which they can then build your estate plan. So let's take an example. Think about if you wanted to build a house. If you wanted to build a house, you wouldn't sit down with the contractor and say, I want to have a house with 2 bedrooms on the first floor and 3 in the second, and want to have a walkout basement and a great room when I walk in the front door. You'd actually give them a blueprint with all the specifications so that they could build your house from there. Well, that's what we do with an estate design. We actually give you the design that creates an estate plan that minimizes your estate taxes, if not eliminates them, and also allows you to avoid the probate process. And by doing that, it gives you the maximum amount that you would like to have that you can then distribute to those that you love and the ministries that you have passion for. Now, this service is our way of saying thanks to you for being a part of our ministry. And the information that you share with us in this process is always kept confidential, and there's never any cost or obligation for you to engage in the service with us. You jumped ahead too fast. And we realize that you have multiple charitable interests, and this will become aware to us as we work through this process with you. We will never tell you where and how much you should be giving to specific ministries. We believe that the Holy Spirit can do that a lot better than we can. If you look at the next slide, you'll see some of the principles that we will elaborate on when we go through an estate design with you. Some of these are obvious, but some of them might not be as familiar to you than others. But the first one is God's the owner of all. This is clearly a scriptural principle. And although we might have title to things, and that's the way we structure assets in this society or culture, that ultimately from a spiritual perspective, God owns all that we have. Now, with Him being the owner, we are His stewards, and He requires us to use that which He's entrusted to us in a faithful and wise way. The third principle that we'll talk about when we go through this process with you is, we'll help you to understand that the priority that you make when you do your transfers in your estate is all based upon dependency. So you're going to give a higher priority to those children that have greater needs. You're going to give a higher priority to those ministries that have a greater need that are dependent upon you. But in addition to the issue of dependency, all of your giving and all of your transfers should happen because the motivation is love. And the fifth one is, and this is really important, and that is that people are always more important than dollars. So we believe that in the process of doing an estate plan, you should never make decisions that would cause your children or your other loved ones to be at odds with each other, certainly while you're alive, but also when you pass. I mean, let's be honest. Who wouldn't want their children hugging each other when you're in heaven? Our estate service is a very comprehensive process. And when we go through this process, we will do a number of things to benefit you. We'll enhance your appreciation of biblical stewardship. You'll get to look at this through a whole new lens. If you complete the inventory that we require, we'll gather the information from you on your assets and your distribution wishes. We will talk about the significance of how you title assets, whether it's tenants in common or tenants by the entirety. We'll explain to you how those different aspects work and how different assets can be titled different ways. We'll make a clear distinction for you between transfers that should happen during life and those that can happen at death. We'll explain the importance of a will to you. Most people think they understand that, but there's a lot of nuances that they haven't thought about, and we will elaborate those for you as well. We'll also explore the merits of different types of trust. There's revocable trust and a host of irrevocable trust. And we'll look at those which are most applicable to your situation and make recommendations and suggestions as to which work best for you. And lastly, but certainly not least, is we will provide guidance to you on how to choose a personal representative, how to choose a trustee if you have a trust, and who you would want to act in the capacity of being your power of attorney for business affairs or healthcare affairs. This is an important one because who you choose to serve in this capacity can be one that can really help promote peace in the relationships that are important to you. So Michael, I'm going to let you share this next slide with the folks, if you would, please.
Well, I hope as you've heard Jay and I discuss these strategies, you can see there's a lot of things you can do. For current giving, for some of the earlier for the earlier case studies we share with you.
I'm still on the
And then when Jay just shared about estate planning, the ultimate giving and planning. So we're here to serve you. Why would you want to include us in your team? And we use the word team because estate and gift planning can be a team effort. First of all, there's no experience of pressure. There's no cost or hidden agenda. This is a ministry that both, what do I call you, the Great Commission Foundation or just?
Great Commission Foundation.
The Great Commission Foundation, the Wycliffe Foundation provide to our faithful donors and supporters. And so again, there's no cost, no hidden agenda. So Jay and I are salaried. Think he gets a commission? No. And you can receive help from people you know and trust, ministries you've been a part of for a while. We also work with your advisors as needed and as necessary, whether that be your attorney or your CPA or other advisors that you depend upon. And so they understand just what the plan is we're working on with you. We also understand your full range of options. We don't have any particular, we're not an insurance salesman. We don't sell securities. We don't sell product. We're here, as Jay put it really well, we're idea people. We're architects. We want to do a blueprint for you. We want to find out what do you want to do and why, and then we can design a plan that shows you how you can get there. And we truly believe that working through the process, you will benefit yourself, your family, the ministries you support from wise stewardship. And of course, as we kind of start out this thing, many times these plans will help you save income, capital gain, and estate taxes, and that's always a good thing. So we're here to serve you, and we hope we have the opportunity to do so. I'm now going to turn it back over to our stellar AA host, Mark Mayers.
So are we going to have notes on the screen, or should I do the paper? I'll do the paper. Hey, thanks, guys. Really appreciate your insightful thoughts during this presentation, and it's now Q&A time. But you know what? Before we get to the Q&A, and I know our audience has lots of questions. They're coming in by droves. I just want to share with our audience that Leslie and I, my bride and I, Leslie, we have felt compelled to do our own estate design. And so we have talked to Jay. We filled out the inventory. We've talked to Jay, and we've completed all of the paperwork, and we're just so thankful for your expert advice in our lives. Ours is not a large estate, but we're stewards over all of it, especially owning real estate in California. It's necessary that we have some sort of trust put together so that at our homegoing, the kids know what to do with that, and our gifts are made appropriately as such. Additionally, having worked with financial ministry partners for nearly 20 years now, I've seen firsthand tens of millions of taxable dollars redeployed and mobilized for kingdom building, simply by introducing my friends to my colleagues over at the Great Commission Foundation. I believe the same is true over at the Wycliffe Foundation, right? I'm so glad there's men and women who God gave talents and abilities to in gift and distinct design like you guys. So I hope our audience is also very pleased about this. Well, I'm certain everybody's got questions, so let's turn our attention to those now. Once again, you can continue to send your questions into us in that little text box down in the lower right-hand corner of your screen. So let's go ahead and take the first question here. How do I set the gift value for a gift of real estate? Okay, guys, who wants to take that?
Michael, you want to take that?
Yeah. No, I really don't. I don't feel like answering that question, Jay, but no.
I assume there's some appraisal.
This is rehearsal. Yeah, great question, especially with real estate, because you can't just open up the Wall Street Journal or your financial pages of your newspaper and say, oh, my house is worth X. Mm-hmm. Gifts of what are known as hard-to-value assets, real estate, business interests, and so forth, the tax law requires you get an appraisal by a qualified appraiser to set the value. And that's really important. There are certain restrictions and requirements one needs to make sure that the appraisal is qualified.
Okay, great. All right, next question coming from Laird in Laguna Niguel, California. How do I set up a donor-advised fund? Is it complex?
Well, I'll start with, and Michael, you add if I leave something out. With the Great Commission Foundation, it's pretty basic. We have a 2-page application that you complete, and you sign that, send that back, along with how you're going to fund it, whether it's with cash, you do a check, or whether it's with stock, you do a stock transfer form. We take that and we approve it, we get that set up, and it takes, can take just a couple days, and it's up and running for you. We also give the ability at the Great Commission Foundation to go online and choose online which charities you want to make recommendations for. So it's very user-friendly, it's not complex, it works for everybody.
Okay, same is true over Wycliffe.
Well, ours is 4 pages because we have an extra page if you pass away. What do you want the remaining assets to be used for? Mm-hmm. And we can do it in about 13.5 minutes.
13.5 minutes. And that last page is to just designate towards the mayor's family.
Towards the mayor's, continuing vacation fund.
Okay, well, next question from Susie Q from Kalamazoo. Here we go. Why should I give my IRA when I can just give cash?
Well, Jay, you talked about that. Why don't you tackle that one?
Well, if you have an IRA and you are subject to the required minimum distributions at 70.5, you'd like to be able to get money out of your IRA, and this opportunity allows you to do that. And I'm trying to think of that question. Why would I give? Michael, that was your question.
Because actually, it's a much better. If the law, now we're talking off camera.
Yeah.
If the law is passed, it's a better way to give cash because you're not reporting it as income. And,
I would state the question a little differently.
All right. Well, I don't know.
Yeah.
Why should I give cash?
What should I give? That's a wrong question, but yeah, that's probably my typo.
It's supposed to be why should I give from my IRA when I can just give cash?
I think I would say, Jay, I'll answer, whoever answers it, because the tax benefits, if this new law passes, provide much greater tax benefit than just giving cash because you don't have to report it as income. It doesn't increase your adjusted gross income that Jay talked about, where it can cause a cascade of other negative tax effects. If you just take it out of the IRA, it's not reportable, and it just still goes to ministry.
So let's change that question to why should I give? Because it's the what that gets...
What, the what?
Yeah, make it why. Yeah, that's better.
Ooh,
okay.
You just did that.
Yeah.
Okay. I said why, but you looked at what.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So did you know that it was?
I knew it was why, because what doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Okay.
I knew
probably wrote that.
Well, you're
question,
smarter than I am.
Okay, so here we go. Hey, here's the next question.
I'll do this one, Michael.
Because
I've got a story.
Hey, I'm a small business owner, and I'm thinking about setting up a family foundation to do my giving through because I can involve my children. What are your thoughts about me setting up a family foundation?
Well, let me take that one. As I mentioned in the presentation, the Donor Advised Fund gives you all the benefits of a family foundation without all of the red tape, the financial, the legal, or the administrative technicalities and regulations. Let me share with you just a neat story. I was having lunch with some young business owners. They were Neil and Barbara. And they had just recently set up a donor advised fund, and they liked it because it gave them some really neat tax advantages that we talked about. And they were wondering whether they should also set up a family foundation because they wanted to involve their children in this. And so they said, what are your thoughts? Do you think we can make this work? Well, similar to the illustration that I shared in the presentation, I said to them, listen, I think the donor advised fund would work well with your kids. And what I suggested that they do is I said, listen, call your kids together at the dinner table and say, we're going to have a contest. And I want you to all sit down and think about what are the greatest needs around the world that you have passion for. And I want you to think about where in the world those needs are the most unmet. And then I'm going to turn you loose. And I want you to do some internet work, and I want you to research ministries that address those needs most effectively. And then I want you to put that in a recommendation form, and we're going to pull you back together at some point in time in the next few weeks, and we're going to have a family meeting, and we're going to let you each present the ministry that was really important to you. We're going to vote on those. Now, when we do the voting, we as parents get 2 votes, and each of the kids get 1. But after we do the voting, we're going to then pick the top 3 charities for you to give to. Well, when I shared that with Neil and Barbara, they really liked it because they thought, what a cool way to involve our kids in our giving philosophy in a way that's fun and winsome.
May I add a story to that
Yeah,
too, Jake?
please do.
I love donor advised funds. And I'm actually meeting with a lady tomorrow who set up one specifically for the purpose of training her grandkids in giving. Because they kind of grown up in a bit of a affluenza type of environment. And she says, I want to set it up. And they do something very similar. Bring causes to the table. Now, Grandma, she has the final veto power. But she said it's been a real joy to train her. I think it's like 9, 12, and 14-year-old grandkids on just giving. Why
That's
Grandma
cool.
gives, what to look for.
That's
so,
cool.
as Jay said, a donor advised fund is a wonderful tool for training the next generation in giving.
Yeah, gosh, that's a cool story. You know, I told you up front that I'm one of the donor reps in the fund development office in Southern California and Arizona. And someone read Ron Blue's book, Splitting Heirs.
Oh, yeah.
Splitting Heirs.
Controversial in
Have you
some
heard of
ways.
this? Yes. And so she decided to employ Ron Blue's recommendation to have a family meeting and to have the family together, the kids, the heirs together in a neutral location. So they all went from wherever they lived around the United States, and they met in Albuquerque, and she laid out what she was going to do, right? Not related to a donor advised fund necessarily in this case, but she laid it all out. 2 of the kids are believers, 2 are not yet believers, okay? And so she laid it all out, and they had this really cool discussion about what Mom's doing, why she's doing it, and she had the chance to share the gospel with the 2 unbelieving grown children.
Yeah,
So
I mean, it
very
can be
cool.
an evangelistic tool as well as helping to pass along your legacy. So I love it. That's a great
And
story.
I think what's good about that as well is that the kids hear it from Mom while she's alive. This is what I'm
Exactly.
doing and why, so that many people, it's kind of a hidden plan, and then what happens? Mom dies, and it's like, wait a minute, she treated you, and it
why did she
gets
do
kind of
that?
ugly.
Yeah.
If Mom explains them while she has her wits about her and she's
Yeah.
alive, this is
Yeah.
what I'm doing and why,
Yeah.
I want y'all to know, you really minimize Mom loved you more than me or something like that because you understand why the estate plan was
Which
done.
raises a good point. A lot of people think, you know, it's good to keep their intentions and their plans, let them be revealed when they pass.
Right.
And the sooner you can do that with your kids and process your thinking and your logic while they're alive, you can bring them along into the decision and let them deal with any concerns that they might have while you're alive. So
Exactly.
there's a lot of benefits to that.
In this particular case, not too many months later, the son, one of the believing sons, told me on a text, I was in a meeting, at a crusade meeting, right? And I got a text and Brian said, hey, Mom went home. And I said, I didn't know she was gone. And he said, no, she went home.
The home.
Will you please come to our town and share
Wow.
at the memorial service? And so
That
I
is
did.
neat.
I got up there and I shared about my relationship with this elderly woman, and it was just beautiful. She was a BSF leader. She had been sharing, and she was 79 years old when she passed. She had been sharing with this Pakistani family across the street. Jesus film, Story of Jesus for Children, had a round table at her home with the family across the street with her pastor and their imam about the distinctions between Islam and Christianity. It was so cool. So I get to the memorial, I say what I wanted to say about my friend, and the daughter from across the street, the Pakistani woman,
daughter.
in her burqa, comes up to the mic, and she's sharing how much they loved Miss Nina. Oh, they loved her. Through sobs, heaving sobs, how they loved her.
Wow.
And she said, the last thing she said was, I hope she's in heaven, which is code for, Mark, get back up, go to the front, take the mic, and share the gospel.
one more time.
So I get up, I take the mic, I thanked the woman for sharing how much she loved Miss Nina.
That's awesome.
And I got to preach the gospel to this woman caught in Islam, and the son who invited me to come say things about Miss Nina, he's in the front row going. So as a rep, I get to love on people and share with them how they can build their estate for the benefit of the family and for the distribution of funds after her homegoing to the ministries.
That's awesome.
That she loved.
You know,
That is
not too bad
powerful.
this was just practice. I mean, that's the kind of the folksy thing you were talking about, chatting around
I'm gonna do this.
the coffee table. I
Yeah.
mean, to share stories like that, seriously. And just, we're
Let's
off,
take
we're
another
off
one because I
script.
want to
We're
walk
off
through another
script, but
story that I haven't.
We're off script, but we're not. I'm
Yeah.
doing that.
I'm
I don't know if
not
anybody's
sure
watching,
what
rather than
that
tell you the truth.
says.
Short explanation what's going to happen. The time that you see here is the start time, so it's countdown.
Oh.
In 31 minutes, we're going to start. And at exact 5 o'clock, I'm going to take the graphic for 10 seconds.
That's what they actually see, that little screen
Yes,
there.
exactly. This is the program out. This is what
Yes.
they're going to see. I'm going to take this for 10 seconds, and I'm going to give you the countdown. You're going to hear me in the room.
Okay.
So I'm going to just count down 10, 9, da, 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 da. What's going to happen? I'm going to take your video. So nothing is going to happen here. After your video, your video is 4 minutes, 50 something seconds, let's say 5 minutes. And then your last word was?
Michael T.
My last word was.
Something like, okay, Michael? Michael?
Yeah, it introduced Michael. I know
I
that.
think without further
Welcome
introduction.
to the. Oh yeah, without further introduction, let me turn the presentation over to Michael.
Was that actually in the pre-recorded thing?
Yes, it was.
Okay.
So, and you were looking straight.
Okay.
And you look straight, and then?
And then I just, so at 5 minutes I should start speaking basically?
You are
Or
going to
they're-
hear what's
Oh, I want to hear what you're saying. Oh,
Yes,
perfect.
exactly.
Okay.
You're
Be
going to
on
hear
this
it.
monitor here.
It will be on this
awesome,
monitor.
awesome.
So what
So
we
you'll
are
see yourself
trying,
coming.
I have like
Exactly.
2 cues.
what we are trying to do, we
Yeah.
are trying to do it some way that it looks like